What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, and if you're looking for more content, make sure you look up Lethal Nick on all the other social media platforms. Today, we're going to be talking about how to avoid pressure on public ground. I know everyone out there has been complaining and public land has gotten so popular and my spots are getting ruined. There's so many guys and so on and so forth. And so I don't really see a lot of that. Definitely more pressure than ever, but I don't ever have problems running into people. Every once in a while, obviously you come across some cases, and to be honest, guys are getting good at hunting public, so it is harder to find spots that are untouched. So today I'm going to go over like 3 different tips on how I avoid pressure and what you guys can use to avoid pressure coming this season. So let's get into it. So the first bullet point that I have here is off-season scouting. Now, I know a lot of guys right now are into shed hunting, me as well. I like to go to some of my old spots that I know really well and look for sheds. But this time of year is best to go in and get a full scope of an entire property. I know guys will tell you like, well, when you're scouting, you need to find where the bucks are going to be and just concentrate on that. I'm not that way. I want to know that entire property. So if it is a 500-acre piece, I want to have walked 80-90% of it to know. I want to know what's on the other side of that ridge. I want to know what's on the other side of this thicket. I want to know what the inside of this thicket looks like. And so I am taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots, and I am walking the crap out of them this time of year. I want to get a full scope. I want to go in and scout. I want to have bullet points. I want to have marks. I want to have locations. I want to have entrances. I want to have exits. I want to have all of that. That way, if I have to hunt this property, or if I come across this property in the off season or during season, then I've already walked it. I already know what's going on in there. I can go through pretty fast and kind of go and maybe power scout it. And we'll get to how I get to that point in a minute. But right now, the best thing to do is if you're unsure about a property, go walk the whole thing. You'd be surprised at how much you learn. And yes, you're going to eliminate a lot of it because you're not going to hunt it. It's not going to be what you're looking for. You're not going to find sign on a lot of it. Maybe you'll find a bunch of pressure, but that's all good stuff. Like, that's good stuff to know. That way, next season, when you go to hunt it, you know all these spots that you can avoid. And if you're going to go scout it, you can go to these 4 or 5 different locations that you've marked in this, 250-acre piece, and you can go, okay, I'm going to go to these 4 spots real quick and do a power scout. If I find good sign in any of them, then they might be worth throwing a couple sits at or so ever. So scout this time of year, put in those off-season miles, and I'm telling you, do it now whenever it's cold out. Right about the end of turkey season is when I really kind of stop. Once we get foliage up and it's getting hot and nasty and you can't see it the way that you can now, like I kind of just avoid it. I don't want to be in the woods that time of year. I just don't. I want to avoid bugs and sweating my ass off and being disgusting all day. I've done plenty of summer scouting. I'm not saying that it doesn't help. I just would rather get it done now, especially now with the foliage off and you can see it really far away. Something that I'm always looking for too is these spots just stand out to me. It's not that I'm not hunting them if they don't have this, but something that's really standing out is I'm looking for spots that have one way in, one way out. And people probably are like, whoa, that's kind of counterintuitive. Like, I want to be able to get in multiple ways. Just because there's one entrance and one parking lot and one way in and out doesn't mean that's how I'm going to do it. But it usually means that there's one parking lot and there's a trail that goes back a mile. Then guys are walking down that path. They might veer off that path a little bit, a few hundred yards maybe, and hunt those spots. But there's one way in and one way out. And what I'm doing is deer get used to that, and 90% of the pressure is going to come from that spot. And so now I can figure out, okay, well, where are these deer bedding to watch or to come in and out, like watching humans come in and out of this property. And then I can figure out, okay, well, if I park at the parking lot like everybody else, but I go to the main road and I walk all the way around and come in a complete opposite direction, it might be a little bit harder. It might be, sneakier. It might be take me longer to get back there, or even walk down the path and these deer, they're not really going to booger out. They're used to it, and then J-hook back to them. I've done that before and been, successful on at least getting in front of deer. And so, but these single pass in, pass out are not bad places to be. You just have to understand that these deer are going to set up in a manner to watch that pressure come and go, and then figure out, okay, what are they doing to this pressure? And then how can I get in a different way? Whether that's come from the water, which is going to eliminate a bunch of guys, whether that's come from another parking lot. Like I've done that, where if there's a big parking lot way on the other side of this, well, these deer are expecting people to come from this parking lot. And when they do this. Well, I can go to this parking lot 4 miles down and walk maybe a creek or a river or whatever that connects to that property, come way from the other side, and then get in on the back way. That way, if people do put the pressure in there, they're coming out, and I'm basically hunting what people call like exit routes, like where these deer are, once they get pressure on this property, how do they avoid that pressure and where do they go to get off that property? And then I'll go and hunt those basically from a different parking lot. And that's actually how I killed my late season buck this year. These deer had one way in, one way out for humans. And if they don't have pressure, they kind of do pretty much their normal routine. And I knew their normal routine, so I actually came from a different parking lot, came in the other side and got in between them. Well, they're expecting me to come from that one way. When no one came from that one way, they got up and did what they normally did, and I ended up getting a shot. And so that's a great way, like that is why I look for those spots, because you can predict how people are coming and going, and then it makes it a little bit easier to figure out like what the deer are doing to avoid that. Another tip, don't forget to scout by the roads. I know a lot of guys want to go deep. You know, you want to have that bragging rights. I shot that buck 3 miles back or whatever. And, you know, I do that too. The buck over my shoulder here, I shot him like 1.5 miles back on some public. It was, you know, it's awesome, but that's where I needed to be. I've also shot some of the bucks over here 45 yards away from the road. One of them was like 20 yards away from the parking lot, and there was just an exit route that they were using next to the parking lot, and I figured a way to get in there, and guys actually came in to that hunting spot, went further back into the woods. The deer got up to go across the street to the private, and I got a shot before he made it across the street. So don't neglect those up close thickets right next to the road where you're seeing deer cross back and forth. Those can be killers during, you know, I like to say November, the rut, because that's when the most amount of pressure is usually on public. But if you can get up close to those roads and figure out exit trails like that, those are bomb spots to be. So bullet point number 2, quit getting married to your spots. Now this goes back to number 1, which is a lot of off-season scouting. If you've put in the time and you have 5, 6, 7, however many spots that you could squeeze in to scout, and you have all these spots, then you don't have to get married to one of them. And what I see a lot of guys doing, get married to their trail cameras. And everyone's done it. I've done it. But the best lesson that I ever learned is when I quit running trail cameras. Just quit. I didn't have trail cameras for like 2-3 years. Not a single one. So it made me rely on just scouting, just putting in the time, and just figuring out where these deer were coming and going from, and where they were at, and hunting literally on the fly. I wasn't married to spots. If I pulled up in a parking lot and there were 6 guys there, I had 3 or 4 different spots in my head that I could go with that wind direction in that area. It might have taken me a 15-minute drive to get on the other side of the lake or the river or whatever, but I have so many different spots that I can't really, if 1 gets pressure or 2 gets pressure or 3 gets pressure, like I'll just move somewhere else. And so I kind of quit using the trail cameras to determine where I wanted to hunt during that time season, and I kind of made my trail cameras more of getting historical data, maybe finding and locating areas with big bucks that I knew, okay, well, when the pressure hits, they're going to move to here, so I'm not going to go hunt where I got pictures of him, but I'm going to go hunt that area, or I'm going to go hunt, you know, if it's a 1,500 acre piece, where I got pictures of him probably isn't where he's going to be when all that pressure goes in. And if so, I'm going to go scout it, and I'm going to find it, and then I'm going to find where he's going to be, and then I'm going to hunt more specific to the sign and less about what my trail cameras are telling me. And I know guys are going to hate me for this, but you're running those cell cams and you're running those trail cameras, and then those are the guys, every single one of them on Facebook, that are bitching about there's so much pressure on public ground, everything's ruined, blah blah blah. They're the guys that are married to their spots. They got a picture of a big buck, probably late September, early October, and they're after that buck, and guys have come in, probably have pictures of that deer too, and now there's 5 guys in that parking lot, or they come from boat and they pull up to their spot and they're not even realizing that there's guys in that spot, and they walk 100 yards and to see a flashlight 50 yards down the trail coming straight towards them, and they're pissed, they've ruined their hunt, whatever. I don't have that happen to me. Every once in a while, well, it happened one time this last season where I have a spot that I've been hunting for a long time. We had a good wind direction to go in there. I bombed about a mile deep. Someone came on boat. He flashed his light at me. I turned around and walked off. And I ended up getting on a 130-inch deer literally that afternoon by going to a complete different spot, scouting my way in. I took like 4 hours of scouting, got back there, set up. I had a great hunt. I seen like 5 or 6 deer, a bunch of bucks chasing does, just not the deer that I was looking for back there. That's like a big thing is quit getting married to your spots. Once you see the pressure, just move on. And if you can't move on or don't want to move on, or your buck's still in there, then go in there and scout and find what these deer are doing. And that goes back to the first one. If you've done the scouting, you figured out what these exit routes are or where these deer are going whenever they get pressure, then you can just go hunt 400 yards, maybe the next property over, the next parking lot over, whatever, and come in from a different angle and kind of get yourself where when everyone comes in there, where's those deer going to go that got all that pressure? They're going to go somewhere. And so if you can get in between them, like I said, right back to the off-season scouting. And then you have an idea like, okay, I pulled up, you see all this pressure. You're not mad because now you know indefinitely, like, okay, well, if there's 4 trucks in this parking lot, where did these deer go? And so, okay, they're just a few hundred yards away. They usually use this exit route. I'm going to go scout that exit route real quick. I'm going to jump in here, check it out, see if they're using it. If they are using it, then I'm going to figure out a way to set up on it and maybe hunt that for a few days while there's a bunch of pressure and see if I can get something coming off of that property or getting away from all that pressure early in the morning or in the evening, and they're going to get up and move this direction depending on, time frame. And so it makes, when you see the pressure, not freaking out and being pissed, and now you're just in your head and you're mad and you can't move on from that because you're emotionally invested. And that's why I say quit getting married to your spots. Bullet point number 3, and this is something that I say all the time, it's hunt hard, scout harder. So this is probably going to sound redundant. I've said it 100 times, but what I mean by this is during season, you should be scouting just as much as you're hunting, if not more. And a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm sitting in the morning, I'm getting down, I'm scouting through the midday, and then I'm popping back in a tree for the afternoon movement. During the rut, it may be less or more depending on what I'm seeing and where I'm at. I might hunt for a few hours in the morning. If I've had a dead morning, I might get down and move over a ridge. If I've seen movement, I might move to that movement and then just sit the rest of the day. Or I'm only scouting for maybe an hour, or I'm getting down. I had a decent hunt this morning. I'm going to get down. I'm going to go scout another piece, and then I'm going to come back to that piece. I do that all the time throughout the entire season. A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm getting there in the morning. I'm going to hunt for 2 hours, 3 hours, however, depending on the time of year and what I'm seeing. And then I'm going to get down, and then I'm actually going to go to the truck, probably grab a snack, run to a couple different pieces of property, scout it on the fly, kick up some deer, see what's there. So I have an idea, and then I'm either going to the spot that I just scouted, like, oh crap, like there's better sign here than there was where I'm hunting. Completely new spot, never even walked on this place. Maybe I hunted it 5-6 years ago and haven't been on it in forever, so I'm just going to go check it out. I go in there, bump some deer around, do whatever, and then I decide, okay, I'm going to hunt here for the evening or for the next couple of days because I ran into a big buck or something like that. Or, okay, I went to a couple different spots. I wasn't really intrigued by it. I'm going to go back to where I was hunting because I had a good hunt that morning. And then at least I know for the next couple of days, like, I don't need to go move anywhere. Or if something happens where all the pressure, I show up one morning and there's 4 trucks that Saturday and I've been hunting it all week, well, now I have a few other spots that I can go hunt because I've been scouting throughout the week, and I've scouted 2 or 3 different spots, so I know where the freshest sign is, and now I have a new starting point to start this process all over again since there was pressure on the spot that I was just hunting. And so it's a good way to kind of keep yourself in the game, stay ahead of everything and be able to kind of bounce around and not have the stress of if someone pulls up on your spot or if there's 4 guys in the parking lot, like, you know what to do. Now, my biggest piece of advice to this hunt hard, scout harder thing is there's a lot of times that I'm giving up hunts or I'm getting down early. Let's say I'm having a hunt and I'm just not seeing anything, and it's, you know, it gets daylight at 6:45, 7 a.m. By 8:30, I haven't seen anything. Most guys are going to get down between 9 and 10. I'm going to get down early. I'm going to go get my truck, and I'm going to go drive parking lots. This is a game changer because you don't know. If you go and you hunt that parking lot and you park your truck and then you walk into your spot, you don't know if someone has come and gone since then, which is always a thing, but you don't know if someone's still there. So you can come out and see, oh, there's 2 or 3 guys in this parking lot that came in behind me. Or you can get in your truck and you can drive around to all these other parking lots and you'll start noticing, like, man, like the spot that I was hunting's got pressure. The spot right next to it has pressure, but there's this other spot that's pretty close that I haven't seen a truck on in 3 days. And so I'm going to go scout it. And that's actually how I ended up getting, like, in front of the buck that I ended up shooting, well, that I ended up chasing this late season. And I ended up shooting a nice little 8-pointer. This is how it went. I've been hunting this piece for a long time. There's 4 parking lots that are, like, all kind of spread out over a mile. It's basically really long. It's not real wide. It's just very long. And so over, you know, every mile or 2, there's a parking lot. And so the main parking lot, which is probably the biggest chunk of property, had 4 trucks on it one morning. And then the next parking lot to the north had 3 trucks in it. And then the next parking lot had 2. And so I was like, there's like 5 parking lots all within, like I said, you know, a mile away kind of deal. Well, the southernmost parking lot never had people in it. And so I drove by it 3 or 4 times looking for the parking lots. Like, as I got out of the woods, I go drive by. And this is mid-November, early November, probably like the first, second week of November. And I started to notice that there was nobody in this last parking lot. So I just went in and scouted, found all the deer, started hunting it. I had really good hunch, just never got in front of any of the deer that I wanted to shoot. Ended up throwing a camera in there, got some pictures of some big bucks, and then they moved on. And once there was no longer pressure in those main properties, these deer actually ended up going back. And I went back over there, noticed that no one was using those parking lots by mid-December, and I started hunting the main property again, and I got back on those bucks, ended up shooting one, like I said, and got in front of my target buck and just ended up shooting the wrong deer. If you want to see that video, go check it out in the playlist. It's on my hunting vlog playlist. But anyways, so that all came from driving parking lots and my, like I always say, hunt hard, scout harder. And that's how I avoid pressure. It's a lot more about just not being deterred when you do find a bunch of pressure in a spot, especially in during the rut in November. Like, if you go to your spots and people are there, just stand on your back, grab your bow, and just go walk. Like, go find spots, because eventually you're going to hit a ridge somewhere or a bottoms where you kick 2 or 3 bucks and they run up the ridge and they turn around and they wait for you to walk by them because there's a doe somewhere in there in heat. So that's where I'm setting up for the shot for the next couple days. You can wind up running into your biggest buck doing that. And that was a big reason why those few years that I quit running trail cameras is why I did, because I would find a 130-inch deer and I'm tickled to death to shoot something like that. And so I'm sticking to that property trying to hunt him, even though if I drove right down the road, I'd potentially kick a 160, 170-inch deer, and then I could be in the game with a bigger deer. And so I just was like, man, these trail cameras are killing me, because I'm going to get excited when I see a 130, 140-inch deer, and I'm going to hunt him. But I don't know what's around the corner because I'm so invested into this spot, when I've found more success getting on to bigger deer by literally just putting my bow in my hand, putting my stand on my back during the rut, coming in a little bit later, driving some fields in the early morning, seeing where deer are at and going bombing back there and see if I can't see a good buck and try to get on him in the next couple days. And it just seems like that just has always put me in a better position. So that's about it, guys. That wraps up my how to avoid hunting pressure. I'm trying to do more videos like this, get some information out on what I'm doing, how I'm hunting, A lot of the off season is going to be videos like this, since I'm not spending too much time in the woods outside of just scouting. Anyways, if you guys really enjoy it, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And make sure you guys go and look me up on other social media platforms. Until next time, hunt hard, scout harder.